Adekunle Adeyemi was not just wealthy, he was a force. In Abuja, his name opened doors before he even arrived. Politicians adjusted their tone when he spoke. Business rivals watched him like hawks. And women circled him like moths to a flame he never allowed to burn. His penthouse in Maitama stood tall above the city, a masterpiece of modern Nigerian interior design. Worn ambient lighting traced the edges of the ceilings. Imported Italian marble reflected every movement like a mirror, and carefully curated art pieces lined the walls, each worth more than an average house. Yet for all its beauty, the place felt empty, cold, untouched. Even the air conditioning seemed to hum in silence, as if afraid to disturb him. That morning, like every other, began with precision. 6 a.m. Adekunle stood in front of the floor-to-ceiling glass window, overlooking the quiet streets below. The city was just waking up, but he had been awake for hours. Dressed in a perfectly tailored suit, his expression was unreadable. Sharp jawline, piercing eyes, and a face that had forgotten how to soften. Behind him, a maid carefully placed his breakfast on the dining table. "Oatmeal, fruits, and black coffee, sir," she said gently. He didn't turn. "Next time, don't announce what I can see." Her hands trembled slightly. "Yes, sir." She hurried away. Adekunle finally walked over, took a sip of the coffee, then dropped the cup back down. "It's too cold." The head maid rushed forward. "I'll replace it immediately." "Forget it." His voice wasn't loud, but it carried weight. Everything about him did. By 8 a.m., he was already in his office tower, another glass and steel empire in the heart of the city. Executives sat around a long, polished table, tension thick in the air. A young female executive stood, presenting nervously. "And if we push the launch to next quarter, we might reduce." "Stop." Adekunle didn't raise his voice. He didn't need to. The room froze. "Did I ask for might?" he said, leaning back slightly. "Or did I ask for results?" I just thought." "That's the problem," he cut in coldly. "You thought." Silence. Then he stood, slow, controlled, dangerous. "If you cannot deliver certainty, you have no place at my table." The woman swallowed hard, her confidence shattered. "Sit down." She obeyed instantly. The meeting continued, but no one breathed easily again. By afternoon, he was at one of his exclusive clubs. Dim lights, soft music, expensive perfume in the air. A group of elegant women surrounded him, laughing, flirting, competing for his attention. One leaned closer, tracing his arm. "Kunle, you've been ignoring me." He didn't look at her. "I've been busy." "With what?" she teased. "Breaking hearts or building empires?" "Both require less emotion than you think." The women laughed, but there was no warmth in his tone. Another tried her luck. "You know, one day you'll fall in love." That made him pause, just for a second. Then he smirked. "Love is a liability." "Wow," one scoffed playfully. "Who hurt you?" He picked up his drink, swirling it slowly. "No one important." But that was a lie, and somewhere deep inside him, he knew it. Later that evening, as he returned to his penthouse, the silence greeted him again. No laughter, no life, just perfection and emptiness. He loosened his tie, walking toward a locked drawer. For a moment he hesitated, then opened it. Inside, a photograph, a woman smiling brightly, alive, warm, everything he was not. His late fiancée. His only weakness, his only regret. His thumb brushed over her face. "You shouldn't have left," he murmured quietly. His voice, almost human. Then, just as quickly, he shut the drawer, locked it, and the man without a heart returned. Outside, the sky darkened, clouds gathered, and somewhere in the distance, thunder rolled. The rain was coming, and with it, everything he had buried. Evening settled heavily over Abuja. The sky didn't just darken, it thickened, like it was holding back something powerful. The wind picked up, carrying dust and tension through the streets. Traders rushed to pack their goods. Okada riders sped off, pedestrians searched for shelter. Then the rain came. Not gentle, not forgiving. It crashed down in heavy sheets, drenching everything within seconds. Inside his black Range Rover, Adekunle sat in the back seat, untouched by the chaos outside. The soft leather seats, dim ambient lighting, and quiet hum of the engine created a world separate from reality. His phone screen glowed in his hand. Numbers, deals, contracts, control, predictability, power. That was his world. "Traffic ahead, sir," the driver said cautiously. "Flooding on the main road." Adekunle didn't look up. "Take another route." "Yes, sir." The car turned, moving through a quieter road, less crowded, less maintained, more forgotten. Rain hammered harder against the windows. Then it happened. Kunle, his fingers froze mid-scroll. Slowly he lifted his head. His eyes narrowed. "Did you say something?" he asked the driver. "No, sir." Silence, only the sound of rain. He exhaled lightly and looked back at his phone. Then again, clearer this time. Closer. "Kunle, help her." His heart skipped. That voice. No, impossible. He hadn't heard it in years. Yet he would recognize it anywhere. His late fiancée, the only woman who had ever mattered, the only voice that could ever reach him. His chest tightened. "Stop the car." The driver hesitated, glancing at the storm. "Sir, the rain is too heavy." I said, "Stop the car." The sharpness in his voice cut through everything. The vehicle halted immediately. Before the driver could step out with an umbrella, Adekunle opened the door himself. Rain poured over him instantly, soaking his suit, his hair, his skin. But he didn't care. His eyes scanned the roadside, searching, listening, feeling something he hadn't felt in years. Urgency. Then he saw her. Under a weak, broken roadside shelter, a woman. Slim, creamy skin now dulled by rain and hardship. Her clothes clung to her fragile body, completely drenched. In her arms, a baby girl. Tiny, shivering, crying weakly. The woman held the child tightly, trying to shield her with her own body, even though she herself had no protection. She wasn't shouting, wasn't begging loudly, just sitting there, quietly enduring, surviving. Adekunle stepped slowed as he approached. Something about the scene felt familiar. Too familiar. A memory tugged at the edges of his mind. Rain, a woman, a moment that changed everything once before. His throat tightened. He stopped in front of her. For a moment, neither of them spoke. She looked up at him. Her eyes, tired, guarded, but still strong. The kind of strength that came from suffering too much. "Please," she whispered softly, her voice barely audible over the rain. "Anything. For the baby." Adekunle swallowed. That was when the voice echoed again in his head. "Help her." He closed his eyes briefly, then opened them. And for the first time in years, there was no arrogance in his gaze, only something raw, human. "Can you trust me?" he asked quietly. She blinked, confused. Trust? In a city like this, in a storm like this, in a man dressed like wealth itself? Her grip on the baby tightened. She hesitated. "I don't know you." "That's fair." He crouched slightly, lowering himself to her level, something no one had ever seen him do. "But I'm not here to hurt you." She studied his face, looking for lies, for danger, for anything familiar. But all she saw was sincerity she didn't expect, and exhaustion she understood. "My baby is cold," she said weakly. Adekunle's jaw clenched. Without another word, he gently reached out. "Let me carry her." She hesitated. Every instinct told her to protect her child. But something in his voice, it didn't sound like a man asking. It sounded like a man who had already decided to protect. Slowly, she allowed it. The moment the baby entered his arms, Adekunle froze. She was so small, so fragile. Her crying softened as if sensing warmth, safety. His grip adjusted instinctively, careful, protective. And suddenly, memories flooded him. A different woman, a different time, a different version of himself, one who still believed in love. "Come with me," he said, looking back at the woman. "I'll give you shelter." She looked at him, fear and hope battling in her eyes. "Why?" The question hung between them. Why would a man like him help someone like her? Adekunle paused, then answered honestly, I don't fully know. A beat. But I know I can't leave you here. Thunder cracked loudly across the sky. The baby flinched in his arms. That decided it. She nodded. I'll come. Adekunle turned immediately, shielding the baby as he walked back to the car. The driver rushed out with an umbrella, shocked beyond words. Sir, open the door. Yes, sir. As they got in, the woman sat carefully, still unsure, still tense. Water dripped from her clothes onto the leather seats. But for once, Adekunle didn't care about damage, didn't care about order, didn't care about anything, except the 2 lives he had just picked up from the storm. As the car drove off, Adekunle stared down at the baby in his arms. She had stopped crying, her tiny fingers wrapped weakly around his, and in that moment, something inside him shifted. Not broken, not healed, but awakened. Outside, the rain continued to fall over Abuja. But inside that car, a new story had begun, one that would challenge everything Adekunle believed, about women, about pain, about love. The rain followed them, heavy, relentless. As the Range Rover sped through the glistening streets of Abuja, lightning flashed across the sky, briefly illuminating the quiet tension inside the car. Adekunle sat still, the baby cradled carefully in his arms. Zara sat beside him, silent, wet, uncertain. The soft leather seats beneath her felt foreign, too clean, too expensive, too undeserved. She tried not to move too much, afraid of staining anything, afraid of being told to get out. Adekunle noticed. Relax, he said without looking at her. She stiffened slightly. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to. You're shaking the car more than the rain, he added dryly. Zara blinked. Then, unexpectedly, she almost smiled. Almost. The baby stirred in his arms. Adekunle adjusted awkwardly. Why is she looking at me like that? He muttered. Zara finally looked at him properly. That's her normal face. She looks like she's judging my life choices. Zara let out a small laugh before she could stop herself. Adekunle glanced at her, and for a brief second, the cold edge in his eyes softened again. Sir, the driver spoke carefully, should we head to the main house? No, the answer was immediate. Take us to the guest house. The driver nodded. Yes, sir. Zara noticed the difference. He had another house? Of course he did. Men like him didn't just have homes. They had options. Minutes later, the car slowed behind a tall gate. It opened automatically. The guest house stood quietly within the compound, modern, elegant, but less intimidating than the kind of place Zara imagined someone like him lived in. Warm lights glowed from inside. Security guards stood alert. Everything felt controlled, safe, too safe. As the car stopped, Adekunle stepped out first, still holding the baby. Rain tried to follow, but the guards rushed with umbrellas. Welcome, sir. He ignored them. Open the door, he said. Zara stepped out slowly, clutching herself. Her feet hesitated on the clean pavement, like she didn't belong on it. Inside, the warmth hit immediately. Soft lighting, cream-colored walls, minimalist furniture with a touch of Nigerian luxury, wood accents, patterned fabrics, and art that spoke quietly of culture and class. Zara's eyes moved slowly across the space. She had never seen anything like it up close. Stand there, Adekunle said, already moving. Staff rushed in from different directions. Yes, sir. Prepare warm water, he ordered. Immediately. Yes, sir. And get clothes. Something simple. They nodded quickly and disappeared. Zara stood frozen, water dripping from her clothes onto the polished floor. She looked down. I'm making a mess, she whispered. Adekunle turned to her. For a second, his old instinct almost surfaced, to correct, to complain. But then he looked at her again, really looked. The exhaustion, the quiet dignity, the way she tried to shrink herself to fit into a world that had never made space for her. It's just water, he said simply. Zara looked up, surprised. A maid approached carefully. Madam, this way, please. Zara hesitated. No one had called her that in a long time. Madam. It sounded unreal. She looked at Adekunle, as if asking permission. He nodded slightly. Go. As she followed the maid, she turned back once more. Her eyes met his. There was still fear there, but now there was something else too. Trust. The door closed behind her, and just like that, silence returned. Adekunle looked down at the baby still in his arms. She blinked up at him, calm now, curious. "You're very small for someone causing this much trouble," he muttered. The baby yawned. He exhaled quietly, then handed her carefully to another maid. "Make sure she's warm." "Yes, sir." Now alone, he sat down slowly. The same living room, the same arrangement, the same atmosphere. And suddenly, it didn't feel new anymore. It felt familiar. Too familiar. His mind drifted. Years ago, another rainy night, another woman, lost, broken, alone. He had brought her here, just like this, given the same orders, watched her walk into that same bathroom. He had stood in this same spot, feeling something he didn't understand, and that woman had changed everything. He leaned forward, resting his elbows on his knees. "What are you doing?" he muttered to himself. This wasn't him. He didn't save people. He didn't repeat mistakes. He didn't reopen doors he had locked forever. But then, a soft sound broke his thoughts. Laughter, from the hallway. Zara, light, genuine, unexpected. He froze. That sound, it echoed something buried deep inside him, something warm, something dangerous. He leaned back slowly, closed his eyes briefly, then shook his head. "This is temporary," he said under his breath. "Just help, and move on." But even as he said it, he didn't believe himself. Moments later, the maid returned. "Sir, she's ready." Adekunle stood, composed again, controlled again. The billionaire had returned. But something underneath had already begun to change. As he walked toward the hallway, the air felt different, like the house itself was watching, waiting, remembering. Because this time, it wasn't just a woman he had brought in from the rain. It was a woman and a child. The hallway was quiet. Too quiet. Adekunle's footsteps echoed softly against the polished floor as he walked toward the guest room. The warm lighting cast long shadows along the walls, making the space feel heavier than usual. Like the past was waiting there, watching. He stopped in front of the door. For a moment, he didn't move, didn't knock, didn't breathe. Because suddenly, it didn't feel like just a door. It felt like a memory. Slowly, he pushed it open. Inside, Zara sat at the edge of the bed, clean, wrapped in a soft robe. Her damp hair fell loosely over her shoulders, her creamy skin now glowing under the warm light. She looked different, not like the woman from the roadside, but not like someone who belonged here either, just somewhere in between. The baby lay beside her, freshly bathed, wrapped snugly in a tiny towel, fast asleep, peaceful, safe. Zara stood immediately when she saw him. "Sir," her voice was softer now, less afraid, but still careful. Adekunle nodded once. "How do you feel?" She hesitated. "Warm," she answered honestly. He gave a slight nod, as if that was the only answer that mattered. For a moment, neither of them spoke, just silence, thick, loaded. Then Zara looked around the room again. Her fingers brushed lightly over the bedsheet, as if confirming it was real. "I've never been in a place like this before," she admitted quietly. Adekunle leaned slightly against the wall. "You'll get used to it." She shook her head gently. "No, people like me don't get used to places like this." That made him look at her properly. "People like you?" he repeated. Zara met his gaze. "People who lose everything." That sentence landed deeper than she expected, because for the first time, it wasn't just her talking. Adekunle's jaw tightened slightly. He turned his gaze away. "You haven't lost everything," he said. Zara looked at her baby. Her expression softened instantly. "No," she whispered, "not everything." Silence again, but this time it felt different, less distant, more shared. Adekunle stepped further into the room. His eyes moved unconsciously, taking in the space, the bed, the chair, the exact position Zara sat, and suddenly It hit him. Hard. Flash. Another woman, sitting right there. Same bed, same robe, same nervous glance around the room. His breath caught slightly. I don't understand, Zara said suddenly, pulling him back. Why are you helping me? The question lingered. Simple, but heavy. Adekunle didn't answer immediately. Instead, he walked slowly to the window. Rain still tapped softly against the glass, not as violent as before, but still present, still reminding. I've done this before, he said finally. Zara frowned slightly. Done what? Help someone like you, she blinked. And, he let out a quiet breath, and I changed her life. There was a pause. Zara's voice softened. What happened to her? Adekunle's reflection stared back at him from the glass, cold, controlled, but his eyes held something else. She died. The words came out flat, but they carried weight, pain, regret. Zara's chest tightened. I'm sorry. He shook his head slightly. Don't be, but his voice said otherwise. She was everything I wasn't, he continued, quieter now, kind, patient, soft. Zara listened without interrupting. She believed in love, he added with a faint, almost bitter smile. And you didn't? She asked gently. He turned to look at her. No, a beat. I still don't. Then, surprisingly, she smiled a little. Then why help me? That question again. But this time, it hit differently. Adekunle looked at her, really looked, the strength behind her softness. The way she held her baby even in sleep, like she might disappear if she let go. The quiet courage in her eyes. Then he said the truth. I heard her voice. Zara's brows furrowed. Your fiancé? He nodded once. She told me to stop, to help you. Zara stared at him, not mocking, not doubting, just trying to understand. And you listened? She asked softly. Adekunle exhaled. I don't ignore her. Something about that answer made Zara's heart shift, because it meant he wasn't as cold as he claimed. Not completely. Maybe she knew, Zara said gently. Knew what? That you still had something left to give. Adekunle let out a quiet scoff. You don't know me. Zara tilted her head slightly. No, she agreed, but I know pain. That silenced him. The baby stirred slightly, letting out a soft sound. Zara immediately reached for her, adjusting the towel gently. That instinct, that care, that quiet love. Adekunle watched, and without warning, another memory hit. His fiancée, laughing, holding his hand, telling him he wasn't as heartless as he pretended to be. He stepped back slightly, as if the room had suddenly become too full, too alive, too dangerous. This is temporary, he said firmly, regaining control. You and your baby will stay here. Get back on your feet. Zara looked at him. And after that? He paused, just for a second. Then you leave. The words were cold, clear, final. But something in his eyes betrayed him. Zara nodded slowly. I understand. But her voice carried something deeper, like she already knew that nothing about this was going to be temporary. Adekunle turned toward the door, stopped, then added without looking back. If you need anything, ask. He walked out. The door closed softly behind him. Zara sat there in silence, holding her baby, processing everything. Then she whispered quietly, Whoever you were, thank you. Outside, the rain continued to fall over Abuja, but inside that room, two broken stories had just crossed paths, and neither of them knew they were about to become one. The storm isn't over. Just when Adekunle thought he could protect Zara, the past begins to fight back. At the quiet shores outside Abuja, where the water meets silence and secrets hide beneath calm waves, Zara will finally reveal something she has been running from. Something dangerous. Something that could destroy everything. But that's not all. The jealous women from Adekunle's past are not done yet. A powerful enemy is watching and waiting. And the truth about Zara's baby might not be what it seems. One question remains. Is Zara really the woman Adekunle thinks she is? Or is she the storm that will break him completely? In the next part, love will be tested, secrets will explode, and Adekunle will have to choose his past or the woman who made him feel again. Don't miss what's coming next. Like, follow, and subscribe for more explosive love stories filled with drama, passion, and unforgettable twists.